Hi guys, welcome back to A Simple Life with Tumi. My name is Tumi Ernst and I'm so delighted to have you back here on my channel. If you're new, hello and welcome to the family. I'm so delighted to have you here. So talking about family, I recently lost my grandmother at the age of 97, and as painful as it is, I was just happy that she finally got to rest, because I think she lived. But from her life, as long as it was, my grandmother was never broke. And today we're gonna learn and realize why she was never broke for such a long time in her life. So just to give you a background, my grandmother actually retired just before I was born. So she's retired for more than 30 something years or 30 years. So she's been retired for that long and she still had money. And I've always wondered, how did this woman do it? But now, looking back at her life, I'm actually looking and trying to see the lessons that I actually learned from her without her even telling me, from the things that she used to tell me and the things that she didn't tell me. And today I'm gonna share all those things with you. So now let's start here. Number one, my grandmother never cashed her pension fund when she was changing jobs. My grandmother was a teacher by profession, so she would move from school to school, and in that moving she actually never touched her pension fund. Number two, my grandmother always invested in appreciating assets. My grandmother, as I told you, she would move from town to town for different teaching posts, but she eventually settled in a place where she built herself a nice house, and there she built a nice quality house that later on, when she was retiring, somebody else, I think it was a farmer in the area or in the nearby area, actually liked the house and came and bought the house from my grandmother. My grandmother, guys, she died at 97, so you can imagine how old she was. But she was wise enough to actually, okay, all old people are wise, what am I saying? But she was actually able to make such an educated decision to build a good house, knowing that one day somebody's gonna take it over from her and buy it at a good price. So it's one of those things that she always proudly said about herself, that I sold a house to a white man. Obviously, guys, to my grandmother, that's like a big deal given the generation that she grew up in. So not to say anything about race, but yeah, like it just made her so proud that she sold her house to a white man. So that's something that we need to learn, that we need to invest in appreciating assets. The third thing that I learned from my grandmother is that we must never stop working. So my grandmother actually, after she retired, while I was in primary school, she was staying with us. As I told you, I'm not sure if I told you, but my grandmother actually stayed with us my whole life. So for as long as I can remember, she was there staying with us. So that's how long she's been staying with us. And in the early days while I was growing up, my grandmother would load her wheelbarrow and go to the next school nearby, sit there by the gate and sell sweets, ice cream, ice blocks, zimbas, all those things, just to make extra cash. I think it was also just for her to keep herself busy, but more than anything, it was to make extra cash. So even after she had retired and unemployed, she still made sure that she made other means to make money on the sides. What a wise woman. Like my grandmother, guys, was just so wise. So I think that's something we can learn from her, to never stop working in our lives. And the fourth thing that I'm going to mention is that my grandmother was a giver. My grandmother was our financial backbone in the family. While I was growing up, we all knew that, when things go rough, you go to my grandmother. And she was that person who sometimes she wants the money back because she's trying to teach you a lesson. Sometimes she's like, take the money, go enjoy yourself. Like even me at this age, I remember in December, I had gone home for Christmas, and when I was coming back, my grandmother called me to her bedroom and she gave me like some cash. So she was that person. No wonder she was so financially blessed. Like everyone in the family, like she was the rich auntie. You know, like when we're talking about rich aunties, we're talking about my granny. She was that rich auntie in the family, even till the day that she passed away. That's how awesome and how awesomely planned her finances were. The fifth lesson from my grandmother is to have something on the side. My grandmother was a tailor. She used to make people's clothes. She used to fix them. When your pants are long, people would bring them to her and she would fix them until like 3 years ago. So she still had her sewing machine and she still used it. So she always made extra cash. Even during her teaching days, she still made that extra cash from actually helping people with her sewing skills. You know, so that's something that we need to learn, that you always need to have something on the side. Don't just rely on your salary. It's not enough. Sometimes it's more than enough, but always just have some ways of making extra cash, because there's a lot of ways that you can make money in this world. The sixth lesson from my grandmother will be that you must use quality because it lasts longer. Or let me rephrase this. You must buy quality because it lasts longer. So as I told you, my grandmother passed away on the 5th of March 2021, and as part of her burial, they actually called us to the side to come and pick an outfit for her funeral. And while I was going through her clothes, guys, my grandmother, number one, she was stylish, but number two, she actually bought the best clothes. And because she had the best clothes, even today while I was like going through them, they were nicely ironed. They don't crumble easily because they're like good quality, and they still look good even for this day. And I'm just thinking, this woman was actually believing so much in buying quality. Even her furniture, she brought some of her furniture to our house when she had retired. So what she did actually was to build herself a house in our yard. So we've got like 2 houses in the yard. One is for her, she had built for herself, and in that house there's some of her furniture. Guys, okay, the furniture is like old, it's not relevant for this age, but you can see that she was buying good quality furniture. So that's something that we need to learn. When you buy quality, it lasts longer, and you wouldn't have to buy things over and over again, but because you would have bought something that's gonna last you a lifetime. If you wanted to last you a lifetime, I mean, these days you can sell things on Facebook Market, on Gumtree, or Cash Crusaders, but in her days, yeah, she had to like buy things that were gonna last her a lifetime. Number 7 that I'm gonna tell you guys is that it's okay to spoil yourself. I learned that from my grandmother. My grandmother used to love bananas. Hey, so every December my grandmother would buy a box of bananas just for us to eat. But guys, we didn't really love bananas that much. It was more for her because she just wanted to spoil herself with bananas. So she would eat bananas. She would put bananas in her cereal. She would put bananas in her bread. I love that style. So you take white bread and you put it around a banana and you eat. Guys, it's divine. I learned that from my grandmother. And she would put bananas in banana bread and stuff. So my grandmother loved her bananas, and she would always spoil herself with bananas. So that's one of the things I learned from my grandmother. She also loved hot wings from Chicken Licken, but she would always complain that why are they dividing the wing into 2. So yeah, like, it's okay to spoil yourself. It's your money, enjoy it, but don't finish it just over spoiling yourself. The 8th lesson I learned from my grandmother is that don't follow the status quo. So this is the thing. My grandmother grew up in the 30s and the 40s, and honestly guys, even in those days, just to become a teacher or a nurse was very hard, but she pushed through. She always told me that she knew that she was not made to be to go work in the kitchens, like it was actually tradition or normal in those days for girls her age to actually go and work in the kitchens. So she told herself that, you know what, I'm gonna be something bigger, I'm gonna be something better. And she studied teaching, and after studying teaching, she became a teacher for the rest of her life. So the lesson here is that, you know what, things may look like, okay, everybody is doing that thing, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, but you can actually become a better person, more memorable, if you decide not to follow the status quo. Number 9, the 9th lesson from my grandmother was that you must invest in your talent, which goes with what I've just talked about, the status quo. So my grandmother, actually, she realized that she was smart. That's why she didn't go the normal kitchen route, working for white people and stuff. She decided that she's gonna be a teacher because people or her teachers had found out that she's actually a very smart girl. So that's one way for her to have invested in her talent. Number 10, which is our bonus lesson for today, is what if you live long? You know, guys, we usually spend money thinking, you know what, YOLO, you live once, you only live once, and you never know. But what if you live once and for a very long time? What's going to happen to you? So you need to be so financially savvy that you're planned even for the future that you can't imagine. As I told you, my grandmother actually retired before I was even born, but she still had money by now. So you can imagine how much invested my grandmother was. So this is something we all need to take into consideration, that, you know what, we have to spend carefully, frugally, be invested, whatever's. Guys, I'm not a financial advisor, but I know for sure that when you live, you must not only be focused on today, you must be focused on a life that's longer than yours. I mean, even if maybe you don't live long enough to actually eat all your money, you can actually give it away to people who need it even better than you. That's also another good reason for you to be well invested. Remember to subscribe, to like, to comment, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.